Welcome back to the virtual Y. Thanks for joining. Chance here. Yoga with me. Thanks for being here. Now, for this practice, I always like to keep it very accessible. I want as many people to feel comfortable practicing yoga, even if you're unfamiliar with it, or even if you're fairly advanced with it. I think the beauty of yoga is you can take what serves you from the practice and still get a meaningful, even kind of therapeutic experience by directing your attention into your body. So I'll explain the breath, the bandhas, or the internal locks, and each pose in great detail. Now, don't get overwhelmed with the details. Take what serves you and leave the rest. I'm giving you lots of options, lots of things to pay attention to if that helps you. Otherwise, your mind might wander, which it probably will anyways. When you notice your mind wandering, you have a lot of cues or a lot of instruction to come back to pay your attention to. But like I said, don't get overwhelmed if there's too much information. You take what serves you. Now, let's start comfortably seated. We're going to notice the spine. We're going to notice the details within our body by turning our awareness inward. If you're in a comfortable environment, maybe you want to close your eyes, just to help you focus inward and start to visualize some of the feelings you have in your body. Notice how your ground, or how your body meets the ground, and a left to right swaying, just very gently rocking from side to side and feeling the details of where is your body on the ground, where is it not on the ground, and see if you can't equally distribute that weight so the weight is supported on both sides equally. Next, notice your tailbone. You can rock a little bit from front to back maybe to help you notice where is your tailbone. Is it on the ground? Is it above the ground? Is leaning forward or back help you just get aware of the length in your low back? Now imagine your tailbone is rooting down. Whether it's touching the ground or not, it's reaching toward the ground. And we want the crown of the head to reach up. So straighten your low back, lengthen it, and maybe slightly tuck your chin a little bit too to kind of lengthen the neck and find a little stretch on the sides and the back of the neck there. Relax your shoulders away from your ears and just notice how much effort and attention it takes to sit up tall and have an equal, balanced, symmetrical distribution of weight. Now this is a posture. This is a pose where we're completely aware of where we have to push and pull and where it feels like work just to sit up tall, just to be equal on both sides. Next, we're going to check out the breath. And in this type of breath, we're going to have both a direction of how we're breathing, but also a texture, like the sound that the breath makes. So let's start first with the direction of the breath. When you breathe in, visualize the breath coming in through your nose and going down, down, down to the bottom of your belly. When you can't get any further down into the bottom of your belly, then fill your lungs up. And on your exhales, we smoothly exhale. We don't just dump the breath out. We try to make the breath take about as long to inhale as it does to exhale, and vice versa. So this is an equal length breath on the inhale and exhale. Imagine it coming down and filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And when you breathe out, it's just smooth, steady, harnessed, a controlled release. And while we're breathing this direction, we're still keeping the spine long and our weight distributed equally from side to side. Now that we have the direction of the breath downward on the inhale, we want to add a texture to the breath, which is the sound. The sound we're going to make with this breath is from the slight constriction in the back of the throat. So imagine like you're snoring, but instead of making a snoring sound, just have a more gentle whooshing sound from that back of the throat. Kind of the same part of the throat that you might make sound if you were fogging up something breathing out, like that same part of the throat. See if you can seal the lips and breathe past it, making a little bit of texture, a little bit of sound. Keep going. We're going to keep breathing like this the entire practice. And if you forget, that's okay. I'll remind you to keep coming back to the breath. To recap everything that we've touched already, we're sitting up tall. We're really rooting down through the seat and really rising up through the crown of the head. Our shoulders are relaxed. Our spine is long. Our breath is coming in and going down to the bottom of our lungs and filling to the top of the lungs. And on the exhale, smooth. And all the while, there's this sound, kind of like we're deeply sleeping when we're breathing. Good. And one more concept before we get moving is called the bandhas, or the internal locks, how we use muscles from the inside, deep within, to really help emphasize the breath and the posture. And we strengthen these very important muscles that we might not often use. So the first lock is the root lock, or the pelvic floor. We call this the Mula Bandha, which means the root lock. You can pull up and in on the soft tissue of the bottom. It's the same as a Kegel lift. You're drawing up and in on your pelvic floor, your bottom comes up, and when you do that, you might feel some pressure in your low back. Once you lift that lock as deeply as you can, gently release that lock with control and just let it go to see what shifts, to see where that pressure goes, and to see what you notice about your body. You breathe in and lift the lock, breathe out and release the lock. Now maybe it's easier for you to breathe in and release the lock and breathe out and lift the lock. There's no wrong way. You can try both if that's all right. Now, one more lock we'll be using is called the upward flying lock, or the Uddiyana Bandha. And we lift this by pulling the belly button in toward the spine, like we're sucking in our belly. That vacuum, that drawing in, creates a lot of pressure on our abdominal organs, but also on the mid to low back. Now, that's what we want to do, is squeeze the spine with these deep muscles and then release it. And then squeeze, and then release. And that ebb and flow that comes like the breath, this is how we put our body into a state of healing, a state of calm, and a state of personal exploration. So if you forgot all that stuff already, don't worry. I'll remind you of all of it. As long as you're aware that you're in your body in this moment, you're right where you're supposed to be. Let's make our way to a tabletop position. Shoulders stack over the wrists. Hips stack over the knees. Your spine is long. We'll spread the fingers. Squeeze all the fingers into the mat so you feel your hands engaged. Roll your shoulders outward so you point your biceps forward and your triceps back. Or that's the points of the elbows pointing back and the creases of the elbows pointing forward. Really grip the ground and traction your hands into the ground towards each other to feel some activation in the shoulders and chest. Press the tops of the feet into the mat. Squeeze the knees towards each other to feel some activation in the inner thighs and your low back. And bring your attention back to the breath. All the way in, all the way out. Use those bandhas. Pull in on the pelvic floor. Pull in on the belly button. And then release them. Just notice what you run into. Maybe it's some discomfort. Maybe it's some pressure. But you never need to push anything to the point where it's painful. Just be easy. Be accepting of what you find and know that you don't need to push anything too hard. And sometimes less is more. Good. Next, we'll take an extended child's pose. Bring the hips back toward the heels and walk the hands forward. Your forehead can come toward the ground. We're going to roll the shoulders outward. So you press the elbows and forearms into the ground, the hands into the ground, and you can actively pull the ground back towards you and back towards your heart to stretch the spine, to engage the shoulders, the heart. Keep sinking deep into the hips and take any organic movement, maybe by swaying the hips a little from side to side if that feels good. Pull in on the bandhas. How different does the pelvic floor and the belly button feel? And just take a couple big breaths. Know that you've already arrived exactly where you're supposed to be. You're only here and now, so bring all of your attention to here and now. And keep on both exploring and accepting how vast or how humongous this present moment is as we pay attention inward to our body. Lift and release those locks, and know that you can always come back to this pose. Let's get a little side body stretch in here. You can walk your left hand out to the left of the mat and bring your right hand on top of that left hand. Keep pulling the ground back towards you to find a little stretch in that right side of your body. Big breaths. Use the bandhas. You don't need to push anything too hard. Walk your right hand out to the right and stack your left hand on top of it. Traction the ground. You can push your elbows into the ground, pull your shoulders away from your ears, sink deep into the hips and breathe. Feel how the lungs expand. Feel how the spine interacts with the changing shape of the lungs. Use the bandhas to just explore. We'll bring the hands back to the center, and we'll come back up to a tabletop position. We'll press back to a downward facing dog if this feels all right in your body. Otherwise, you can stay in child's pose or a tabletop position, whatever feels good for you. But for down dog, we're going to put a little weight into the hands. For this, squeeze the hands into the ground. Don't just let the weight dump into your wrist. Feel really strong in each fingerprint and each knuckle as you squeeze it into the ground. Send your heart back towards your thighs and let your hips go high. Press the crown of the head toward the ground. Find a stretch in the shoulders and find action through the shoulders by rolling the shoulders outward to point the points of the elbows more toward the ground. This engages the muscles, which keeps us from overburdening the joints. We want the muscles strong and engaged. Take a couple breaths here. You can pedal out your legs or rise up and down on your toes. Use those bandhas. And on your next inhale, look towards your hands. Step your feet behind your wrists. Fold forward for Ragdoll Pose. You can grab your opposite elbows to just let your whole torso hang heavy. Find a little bend in the knees, root down through the soles of the feet. Big, deep breaths. Notice what you find. As your belly expands from the deep breaths, do you feel how your thighs can kind of traction and pull your low back long? Is there space deep within that the bandhas reveal, where you can release or soften, let go of any tension. We'll bring both hands to the mat, slowly rise to stand. As you're rising, feel how your spine moves, how your knees move. Whew. Rock the shoulders up, back, and down. And we'll take some standing poses here. We'll start with the hands at heart center. Root down through the soles of the feet. Slight bend in the knees, traction the feet towards each other. So you're really driving your feet into the ground, but dragging them towards each other so the inner lines of the legs feel strong. So the low back is engaged. Pull up to find length from the low back out through the crown of the head. Soften your shoulders away from the ears, soften your heart. Big breaths, bandhas lift. On your next inhale, sweep the arms high. And exhale, fold forward, lean the heart toward the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back, long spine. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, sweep the arms high, feel how the spine moves. And breathe out, hands to heart center. One more time, breathe in, arms high. Breathe out, fold forward. You don't need to push anything too hard. Go slow, feel every sensation. Inhale, halfway lift, long spine. Don't round through the spine. Pull in on the bandhas. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, roll all the way to standing as you sweep the arms high. And breathe out, hands to heart center. This time, breathe in and take a chair pose. Imagine that you're sitting in a chair. Send the hips back, lift the chest high, raise the arms high. Invite weight into your heels, roll your knees towards each other, pull in on those bandhas, and find space across the front of the hips. Take one more big inhale here. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step the left foot back for a warrior one. Make sure your front heel lines up with your back heel, and your front knee bends to be right above your front ankle. Now, if your feet are closer together, it'll be less intense. If your feet are farther apart, it's going to be more intense. But you always want your knee right above that ankle. Actively straighten the left leg. You can either have your hands on your hips if that feels good, or raise your hands overhead. Pull forward and up on the left hip to really square your hips toward the front. Relax your shoulders away from your ears. You could even push your palms together. On your next exhale, we'll open to a warrior two. We're just going to shift the hips to point toward the left as well as our chest. But the feet stay relatively the same, except for your front heel lines up with the arch of your back foot. But that right knee stays right above the right ankle. Arms open wide. Look down, see if your shoulders are right above your hips. As you open those arms wide, see if you can relax your shoulders away from your ears and place your chin right above your right shoulder. Use the bandhas. Notice, are you breathing or do you feel out of breath? Slow everything down, bring it back to this moment. Exhale, extended side angle. You can bring the right elbow toward the right knee. Reach the left arm long. Look up toward the left hand. Invite weight into the left heel. The next inhale, reverse warrior. Reach the right hand high. Keep tractioning the feet into the ground and towards each other. Lengthen the low back, draw down on the shoulders. And on your next exhale, we'll step the left foot forward at the top of the mat. On your next inhale, sweep the arms high. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step the right foot back for warrior one. The left knee is right above the left ankle. The front heel, the left heel lines up with the right heel from front to back. Traction the feet towards each other, shift your hips so they're pointed directly out over that left knee. Pull forward and up on the right hip. An option to bring your arms high. And press your palms together overhead. Draw it down on your shoulders, lift up through your heart. And on your next exhale, open warrior two. You can always adjust where that foot is at for more or less intensity, but always keep the knee right above the ankle. With your arms wide, roll your tailbone under. Traction the feet towards each other. Chin above that front shoulder, reach the arms wide. Every pose looks different in every body because we're holding tension in different places. We all live different lives. But use the pose to explore how your body is in this moment. Notice where it's working on you. Use the breath. And on your exhale, extended side angle. We're reaching that right hand at an angle that matches the right leg rather. So your whole side body is like a ramp. You don't want too much weight in this front arm. Maybe you can even pick that front arm up off the knee. You'll feel a lot more work in your side body. On your next inhale, reverse warrior. Traction the feet towards each other. Point your chin up towards your upper hand. Traction the feet in. Feel all the strength in the thighs, the hips. And we'll step that back foot up to the top of the mat. On your next inhale, sweep arms high, really go slow. Notice how your legs feel, how your spine feels, your shoulders. Exhale, fold forward, relax your face, your eyes. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bend your knees. Option to rise up on your toes here with your knees bent and kind of curl into a ball. Tuck your chin so your forehead is toward your knees. Maybe you're up on your toes, maybe you're not. Whatever's fine. We're just kind of crouching into a ball. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Big, full breaths. And we'll have a seat. Lowering down onto the ground. Good. Let's make our way all the way onto our back. And take a long body stretch. Use the ground to traction your spine. As the ground grips the spine, let the breath work as a moving force. To explore where that tension is residing along the spine, the ribs, the hips, the shoulders. We'll bring the feet up over the hips. So your legs are up in the sky. Press your low back onto the ground if that feels good. And take any organic movement in the feet, the ankles, the legs. Keep the breath flowing so that your spine feels like it gets longer and longer with each coming and going of the breath. Good. We'll press the soles of the feet onto the ground. Feet hip-width distance apart and your heels in close to your seat. Ground down to the heels and the arches of the feet. Lift the hips up, roll the knees towards each other. You can press your arms into the ground. You could interlace your fingers behind your back. Tuck your chin, press the back of your head, back of your neck into the mat. Roll the knees towards each other. Pull in on the pelvic floor. And you can gently lower down onto the ground, rock the knees a bit from side to side. We'll take a gentle twist by bringing the knees over to the left, right hand out to the right, right shoulder blade to the mat. Draw your shoulders away from your ears. Big, full breaths. Feel your spine twisting very gently, but feel how the breath explores that twist. And bring your knees over to the right, left hand out to the left, chin toward the left hand, left shoulder blade toward the mat. Pull the shoulders away from the ears and breathe all the way down to the bottom of the spine and all the way up to the head. Lastly, we'll lay flat on our back, arms wide, legs wide. Try to get as much of yourself onto the ground as you can. We're just going to take 10 full, slow, deep breaths, all the way in and all the way out. Try to focus only on the sensations. If you notice your mind wandering, bring it back to the attention on the breath. All the way in, all the way out. hug your knees into your chest whenever you're ready. Come down onto your right or left side. And return to comfortably seated. Notice how you feel. Maybe it's very subtle shifts. Maybe it's very noticeable. Just take a full breath in to notice how much more aware of your inner world you are. Squeeze those bandhas and release them. And know that there is an infinite amount of progress we can make inward to strengthen, to become more aware, and to become more accepting of what is, ultimately freeing up way more energy to cause and create the changes that we truly desire. So thanks for tuning in. Hope this was helpful. Take care.